Welcome to Dynasty Life. I'm Theo Gremminger. Redraft ends, but Dynasty is life. And I have a repeat guest to Dynasty Life today. My guy, DBro, Derek Brown of FantasyPros, back on Dynasty Life. This is like we're nearing the official start of redraft season, July 1st, right around the corner. DBro, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, buddy. It's summertime, so we're all everybody like yourself, all of us that work from home and stuff, you're balancing trying to get the fam time, trying to get the recoup and the rest in and stuff like that before crunch time and it just gets wild and sleep goes out the window, somewhat of a life goes out the window and stuff like that. So it's a good time, man. A lot of content popping off as well as just trying to recharge the batteries to get ready for the home stretch and ready for the season.
100%. I don't know when that recharge is going to happen. I feel like I'm going 24/7. We're working on getting out our draft kit. That should drop any day now. But you guys dropped yours. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, dude. I mean, the Fantasy Pros redraft kit. I mean, we have best ball kit that is already live. The Dynasty kit's been live since rookie drafts and stuff are popping off for the NFL draft. But the main one for the redraft, so fantasypros.com/kit, so easy to go to. There's a ton of content, man. And really, the thing that I think is so awesome about our kit on a yearly basis is that not only are you covering so much strategy, but people want targets, player takes, and things like that. It's a mountain of basically everything you want in there. And I'll highlight, and I know a little bit of bias here, Theo, but like my perfect draft article has been live in there, still is live, and that is my baby this year. That has been we'll get those Andrew Erickson, Pat Fitzmaurice, all the rest of the team is going to have their own perfect draft articles live as well. Mine specifically, I wanted to go as deep as I possibly could, man. I got like almost 80 players in there, 20 plus like late round guys that like whether people are using this for redraft, best ball, all those different formats, like I wanted to come out with something that was like not just like, okay, it's a crap ton of players, but all encompassing where you can apply it for a lot of different things. Where if you're doing the best ball, who would be my targets and how does that marry with my ranks and stuff? So that's already live. But yeah, dude, I think one of the things that specifically to highlight for our kit and the player profiler kit, it's just a mountain of information. So like you wouldn't have to go outside of using both of these, both the kits for both of our sites. You don't need anything else going into your drafts. You literally don't.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. And I know you and Pat and Andrew Erickson contribute to our draft kit. That's always a very cool thing every year. But it like I'm on our site and your site all the time. Like I go to you guys have a very easy to navigate historical scores where I can pull up the PPR scores and I can break it down by specific weeks. I'm like on that page pretty much 6 days a week at some point looking something up. And it's like, your site is so layered in all the little tools. It's sort of like ours. Once you like get down that rabbit hole of like looking at all the metrics, figuring out what the stats are, Fantasy Pros the same way. So big hat tip and highly recommend all of your work. Your in-season writing is excellent and you grind your ass off. So like DBro, like this is like a weekly read. Add DBro to your weekly reads this year. It's going to make you a better player. But DBro, you're out in the streets grinding. You're getting the draft kit ready. You're putting out all kinds of content. If you could know the final stats of any player this season, any single player, who would it be?
I mean, that's the first name that comes to my head right now. And this is a guy that I've been talking about in the social media streets since January. And people go check the receipts, check the tweets. I really would love to know the stat line for Jaleel McLaughlin. I've been high on him because, dude, it's like when you pull up the numbers, he pops in every single efficiency metric. I mean, we're discussing a player that last year among 68 qualifying running backs was legit top 5 in explosive run rate, missed tackles forced per attempt, yards after contact per attempt, and he was top 5 in yards per route run. And he is going to play how we're projecting this offense to run and how I'm projecting this offense to run. He's going to be the passing down back in a Sean Payton offense. And I know people always discuss that and they say it, but like, I really want people to understand how freaking valuable that is. Like in the last 9 years that Sean Payton has coordinated a damn offense, he has not finished outside the top 5 in targets to the running back position. They led the damn NFL in it last year, Theo. So, like, if you're in PPR leagues, hell, even in half point, like, if people go look at my ranks on fantasypros.com, I'm bullish. People can even also say that I'm over the moon. Like, I'm being beyond aggressive. I don't think it's being beyond aggressive to rank him where I have him, and I'm pulling it up right now because I don't want to sit here and lie to the people, because the first thing that happens is you throw something out like this and they're like, well, that's not where you really have him ranked. I have him at RB29 right now. I love the guy. I love the role. I love the talent. I love the upside and the efficiency. And I think with the bigger role this year, dude, in PPR leagues, I think he could be an RB2, but I would love to know that final stat line.
I love it. And you have been on the Jaleel McLaughlin train for quite some time. Last time you were on Dynasty Life, you were, I think he's cool. This year's Jaylen Warren, much like Jaylen Warren last year. We saw Jaylen Warren double up his catches, double up his rushing yards. And, like, people will look at the archetype and they'll say, this guy's too small, but like, we're looking for targets to the running back position. Bo Nix is a check down artist, a screen merchant. This is like a perfect pairing for him. And last year they had multiple running backs sort of involved in the passing game. What if this year it's just a Jaleel's the best one we have with the ball in his hands as a pass catcher? Let's phase out a little bit of the other options. So I really like that one. How about this year? Like, when you look at a lot of times we're looking at specific players, but I think if we take a step back and we look at offenses, if we can identify an ascending offense, there can be like multiple ADP wins from the same team. We see it every single year, whether it's a mispriced offense or an offense that just exceeds expectations. You can cite many examples. Last year, the Detroit Lions; the year before, Miami. Like every single year, you get these sort of situations. Who's an offense that you're looking at to take a big step forward and potentially deliver multiple ADP wins on the same team?
So I didn't want to bog us down, man, but like doing in these early best ball streets and stuff, there are 4 prominent offenses that, because I couldn't just limit myself to one with this, dude, because I want to give people the goods, and I feel like this is a fantastic conversation to have, because when you're going through early best ball drafts right now, even you can apply this to Dynasty and stuff too, like, you're looking for players and offenses that can outperform expectations. And there are 4 offenses that I am just religiously hammering, whether it's been in rookie drafts, best balls, dynasty trades. I love the Washington Commanders. I love what they're going to do. I love the Indianapolis Colts, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Seattle Seahawks, man. It's like the Commanders, and just starting with them, it's like we are underpricing all different parts or pieces of this offense. Like, you're telling me Jayden Daniels, people have him ranked outside the top 12 quarterbacks for redraft. They have him ranked in a spot. Hell, some people have him outside the top 12 dynasty quarterbacks, which is just absolute freaking insanity to me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what details are you looking at. Are you just specifically like projecting he cannot stay healthy, which I think is total bullshit. Like, people talk about all these big hits that he took and things like that. It's like, so what injury during his Heisman season are you pointing to say that he can't hold up? Or is that just crappy projection? Like, you so worried about that, but then you're going to rank Lamar Jackson as what, a top 5 dynasty quarterback? They're basically the same freaking size. Like, we could split hairs on just absolute ability, but I just think it's absolute insanity, man. And you can mine value from that entire offense. We know there's going to be play volume. Bijan Robinson Jr. has been one of my highest drafted, most traded for players the entire offseason. I'm not worried about Austin Eckler. I think he's going to be fantastic. I think Bijan Robinson Jr., I honestly think he's going to spike double-digit touchdowns this year. We've seen it too many freaking seasons in a row with Cliff Kingsbury's offense and the goal line back. You can go back to Connor. You can go back to Kenyon Drake. You can discuss, like, all those guys were top 5, top 10 in red zone rushing attempts. Bijan Robinson Jr. is going to have that as well. I don't know, your thoughts on the Commanders' offense before we kind of, go down this litany of guys.
I'm very, very bullish, and I think Terry McLaurin has DJ Moore type vibes from last year. Yeah, I think we're going to talk a little bit about some of the other young players on the Commanders a little bit later, but the vibes are all there. It's like all the players seem very optimistic about this Cliff Kingsbury offense and Jayden Daniels' maturity. You have the beat reporters saying how good Jayden Daniels looks. And I think it was like you bring up a great point, and I saw Scott Barrett tweeting about this one as well, about how Jayden Daniels is heavier than like current Lamar Jackson, like lean Lamar. So it's like, this is a next level runner. He certainly did take some big hits at LSU, but he's not like some RG3. Like, he's a little bit bigger than that. This is a guy who I think doesn't get enough credit for being able to take on an NFL contact and take on a few big hits and just keep on pounding. The guy could lead all quarterbacks in rushing yards. So even if he's not good at the other part of the game, he's got a very safe fantasy floor. And if he is good, you're talking about he's like an arbitrage play on where we have to draft Anthony Richardson. So I'm all about Jayden Daniels. And I love that you brought up, I think a lot of people are on the Colts, but I love that you brought up the Ryan Grubb offense in Seattle. I'd love for you to expand on that one a little bit.
Dude, I just think Seattle, I think that people are reading this wrong. I think that people are reading the room wrong as far as what this offense can be. I keep buying into all parts of this offense because I think we could see a revitalization for DK Metcalf. Like, we have seen wide receiver 1 production in his range of outcomes. I mean, you go back through his career, the floor is as a wide receiver 2, but he has shown the ability to put up wide receiver 1 numbers, and I think he can get back to that. And Grubb, I mean, what are we talking about, dude? Like, Grubb last year with Washington was legit. It was a high-flying offense. They were stretching the field. Like, they were going downfield religiously. And everybody tosses all these narratives to Seattle like, oh, well, the head coach is a defensive-minded head coach. They're going to run the ball. Like, says who? Like, they're going to run the ball. Yeah, sure, they're going to run the ball. But are you definitively telling me they're going to be top 5 in neutral rushing rate? Like, I'm going to push back against that because nobody knows that for full certainty, but you hear that narrative out there continually. Just because the head coach is defensive-minded? Okay, then why did he bring in an offensive coordinator who McDonald's not calling the freaking plays? That's Grubb's. So why are we marrying it? Oh, he's a defensive-minded head coach. They're definitively going to be run-heavy. Nobody knows that. Nobody knows that. If they tell you definitively that they know that, they're talking out their ass.
And I love how people are trying to throw the defensive head coach monitor. Like, the guy is very good at being a defensive coordinator, but he's 37 years old. There's not a lot of 37-year-old dinosaurs. I think, and not to be an ageist when it comes to coaches, but, when you hire a 37-year-old, it's more likely because the guy has really good ideas and you feel comfortable about that level. You don't make that Ryan Grubb hire to have him dink and dunk and be dead last in plays per game like Seattle was last year. So I am completely with you. I think Seattle pass catchers are all well priced. I think that there's value in the 2 running backs. I think Charbonnet, there's value in drafting him where he's going if you don't believe in Ken Walker. And I think that like DK and JSN are both appropriately priced to return value. So I'm with you. I think it's going to be a tempo change, a philosophical change. And I feel good enough in Geno fitting into this offense and being able to deliver on these guys.
I was going to say, I was like, before we transition to another offense here, like, I need to tell people the good word about Geno Smith, man. Like, if you look at what he did last year, I don't understand. I don't get why people absolutely just say, like, look, like, he had a terrible year. Like, I keep pushing back against that continually because he didn't have a bad year. The thing about it is that, like, when you look back at last year for Geno Smith, he faced the 5th highest pressure rate last season. So every time he snapped the ball, he was literally under duress. But if you look at the clean pocket metrics for Geno Smith, which I think the Seattle offensive line, and that's the linchpin here, I think they bounce back. They've made a lot of, like, I guess what I would consider, they have made bets on players on that O-line bouncing back, but I think they're strong bets because a bunch of those players, like, who are they going to have for center last year, played center in a small, and I'm blanking on the name right now, but played center in a small faction last year, had good numbers, and other players have dealt with injuries. So if we get health on this offensive line, Geno Smith from clean pockets last year, Theo, was top 12 in basically everything. Big time throw rate, passer rating from a clean pocket, yards per attempt, all these metrics that we care about that are sticky. When Geno was clean last year, which wasn't much, he was still freaking awesome. So an offensive system that we've seen at the college level that is going to throw deep and is going to be infused with passing volume. The offensive line bounces back. If Geno gets more clean pockets, this entire offense is going to way outpace expectations. And you brought up JSN. I'm not going to push back that I think he is grossly mispriced, but I do think he is mispriced based off of he's a second-year wide receiver. He has the talent, the pedigree, and depending on how you look at certain metrics with him, Shane Waldron neutered him last year. Just absolutely just cut his legs out from under him. He wasn't able to do anything. There is no way in hell that any offense with JSN in it should ever turn JSN into a damn screen merchant. He had the 7th most screen targets, the 7th highest screen target rate. Tell me out of what part, Theo, of JSN's profile coming into the NFL where we said, yeah, man, he's going to break a shit ton of tackles. Let's just give him the ball within 2 yards of the line of scrimmage, and let's just turn JSN into freaking Malachi Corley, because that will work out well. But that is what Shane Waldron did last year. JSN, you put him on the outside, he is going to blow up this year, and I think that's what happens.
And I think it's just very interesting as sort of a big mispricing as you're seeing JSN going behind multiple rookies in this class that I think should be behind JSN. It's a sort of like, let's search for like the new hotness instead of a guy who didn't necessarily deliver where we were drafting him, but it wasn't like JSN fell flat on his face. The guy showed that he can run routes at an NFL level, that he can make tough catches at an NFL level. We need an increased opportunity, and I think this year he's going to get it. And the vibes are strong with JSN. Like you talk about Mike McDonald talking about him any chance he gets, Ryan Grubb talking about him as well, Gino talking about him. I think they know that if this offense is going to be able to compete in that division and win that division, they're going to need JSN to take a big step forward. So wanted to kind of stay on the wide receiver track. We look at the wide receiver market. It's never been pushed up higher. Mm-hmm. Is there a dark horse wide receiver one this year, DBro? Like you look at it, it seems pretty stagnant at the top. Like the best bets are all being drafted inside the first round. The CDs, the Tyreek Hills, the Ja'Marr Chases, Amon-Ra St. Brown. If you could see a player sort of outside of like the big 8 push through and become wide receiver one overall, who would it be?
It's Drake London. That's the easy answer here, man. It's Drake London. I mean, we're getting the massive infusion of quarterback play that is, even if you wanted to say, okay, Kirk Cousins ain't it, Michael Penix is there. Either way, both of those guys are going to be better than anything he has seen over the last 2 years. Marcus Mariota was not good. Ritter was not good. Taylor Heineke was not good. These are bottom 5 on-target throw rates, efficiency, accuracy guys. And all of that matters whenever you're talking about Drake London. Like, how he wins and who he is. Can he get deep? Can he stretch the field? Yes, that's absolutely true. But he's also so dang good in the short and intermediate. Like, he is a better version of Michael Pittman. And with Drake London, you have a guy that also, and I think this is one of the things where we have to look at and we're parsing between, when you're talking about dark horse wide receiver one overall, you're playing with all of these parts or pieces of a projection. And it goes down to, okay, could he get into that 160, 170 type of target range? Okay, increased pass volume, better quarterback play. He's only dealing with Kyle Pitts on a weekly basis for targets. Okay, could that happen? Check. That box is checked. Can he get there with, okay, can he earn the target share? Rookie year, all those numbers should validate that, yes, he can earn a high-end target share. 25, 27% target share is in the range of outcomes for Drake London because, holy shit, he's already shown us that he can do that in his rookie season, where he was top 15 in every market share, efficiency metric that we could pull up and we care about. He was tanked last year by the quarterback play even harder than in his rookie season. And the real big piece I want to get to here, Theo, is to have that wide receiver one overall type of upside, you have to be able to score touchdowns. You are not going to get there with 5 touchdowns, with 6, with 7 touchdowns. Drake London has the size and the acumen to be a guy that scores 10 to 15 touchdowns. Like, that can definitively happen because we know he has the size to play up in the red zone. So, like, where I can make you a case volume-wise maybe for Chris Olave, I can't make you that type of red zone case for Chris Olave. So Drake London is the easy go-to answer for this, man.
It's super interesting with Drake London because all the Falcons are pushed up. The big 3 are all pushed up. But I think if we had to sit here co-independently without seeing the other ADPs, and I would say DBro, give me the running backs who are going to be targeted in the top 5 this year. Bijan was already the number 3 most targeted running back last year. He's going to be top 5 this year.
Yep.
With Kyle Pitts, it's difficult not to see him with the non-Drake London wide receivers there not being a top 5 target. Like, he's going to get 110 targets or more at the tight end spot. That's usually good enough for top 5. And then Drake London, you bring up like 25, 28%. His competition out there is Darnell Mooney, Rondell Moore. Kirk Cousins is not a tunnel vision guy, but it's easy to see this offense be very consolidated. And if Penix sees time, rookies usually favor their alpha. So, I mean, the guy's Mike Evans type alpha, that kind of size when you bring up the touchdown total. I love it. Let's talk a little bit about this year's version of. I've been asking everybody if they have this year's version of player, and people are taking this many ways. Last year, we had so many outliers in terms of ADP return on value. Puka, Nico Collins, Kyron Williams, Devon Achane, Rashad White, you name it. Give us one, DBro.
Ben Sinnott is this year's version of Dalton Kincaid. And
see, this guy, you brought tears to my eyes with this. When I saw this in our DM, I was like, I've been singing the praises of Ben Sinnott. I have so much Ben Sinnott. If this happens, DBro, it's going to be a very, very happy Christmas season in the Gremminger household.
Dude, people wanted to shy away from it with Sammy Ballgame. They wanted to say, okay, well, we don't believe in first-year tight ends. We don't believe in Sam LaPorta. We don't believe in Dalton Kincaid last year. And the runway was clear from week 1 for Sam LaPorta to just crush if he had the talent, which people found out in short order that he had the talent. I was trying to tell people beforehand. They didn't want to listen. And Dalton Kincaid, it took a second for the liftoff. He had to clear through some of the noise and Dawson Knox and things like that. Middle of the season on, dude's a top 12 tight end. And that's all you're really looking at for Ben Sinnott. Like, what do we need for this to happen, Theo? Okay, Zach Ertz gets shoved to the side. He gets put into a part-time role, much like Dawson Knox. And I know that some of the things for Dawson Knox, it was an injury and things like that. Can we definitively say that Zach Ertz can handle a full-time role at this point in his career, that even if he's thrust into that role, that he can handle it, he can be effective, and he can stay healthy? I don't think we could check any of those boxes for Zach Ertz. And when you look at Ben Sinnott, like in the early parts of the offseason, people were like, oh, well, you're too high, you're over the moon, you're ridiculous about this. And I'm like, no. The fact of it is that, like, people want to play these safe games about, like, oh, I got to see it first. 9 times out of 10, if you're waiting for that to happen, you're behind the freaking 8 ball, man. And I don't think that people ever gave Ben Sinnott enough credit as a prospect and how freaking athletic he was. Like, he tested out the gym in everything. He absolutely crushed every single efficiency metric that I care about. And a lot of the same reasons why I was out there screaming Sam LaPorta is going to be really damn good. Ben Sinnott checks a lot of those boxes too, man. Like, final season at K-State, he was top 10 in yards per route run and PFF receiving grade. Top 5 in missed tackles forced. He was also top 15 in yards per route run against man coverage. He's hyper athletic. Like, what box does he not check? Oh, and it's a consolidated passing offense. Like, behind Terry McLaurin, who's garnering targets there? Like, I love Luke McCaffrey, but again, it's a projection. Jahan Dotson is not that guy. People still want him to be that guy. I'm sorry, he's just not. There's nothing in his profile over the last 2 years that tells you he's going to be that guy. If he has, like, a breakout season of, like, 750 or 800 yards, whoop-de-freaking-do. Hooray. He's a wide receiver 4 for your team. Congrats on that. Ben Sinnott could be the number 2 target earner in this offense as early as the back half of his rookie season, and I don't think people are ready for it, Theo. They're really not.
Well, and then you just look at the type of tight end. You bring up a Dalton Kincaid, a LaPorta. Certainly, we see it with Trey McBride and Evan Ingram, for that matter. It's this 6'3", 6'4", 245-pound move tight end. This is the mismatch player we're looking for. Ben Sinnott has that. And you talk about the athleticism, led several categories at the tight end spot at the NFL Combine, ran a faster 40 than Jatavian Sanders, which was a little bit unexpected. And Sinnott just checks everything. And also you talk about the draft capital. Washington takes him in the 2nd round. They don't mess around and let him fall into the 3rd round. They take him in the 2nd. So
he's not a fullback. Can I make sure that everybody knows that too? Because I've heard that narrative.
Yeah.
The Washington Commanders did not draft a fullback in the second round. Can we just totally debunk that? Absolutely. Just, I hate that. I hate that narrative. I've hated it the entire offseason. He can block. Yes, that's definitively true. But you need to understand that is a good thing for him to play all the downs. You worry about guys like, can they, okay, he's just a receiving weapon. He's not going to play when they go to run plays or they go to a run play and he's on the field and then they have to check out into a pass. Ben Sinnott, when he gets the role, has an every down freaking skill set. You can question the pass game upside, which I still think is ridiculous, but you can't question his ability to block. No, can't.
No. Ben Sinnott's a beast, and athletically he's right there. And he's part of a very, very exciting rookie class. And that's sort of the focus of today's show, DBro. I hit up DBro and I said, let's do a dynasty startup draft with only rookies and sophomores. I did something like this with Jax Falcone way back, and it was a lot of fun. But things have changed a lot. We have a lot more information, and we're going to get after it. We're going to do 24 picks. We're going to do 2 rounds. DBro is going to be OTC when we get back after a short break.
This episode is made possible by Underdog Fantasy, and Underdog Fantasy is the leader in best ball. When you go to join an Underdog Fantasy best ball draft, it fills very quickly, especially now. It's Best Ball Mania season, baby! Best Ball Mania 5! I can't believe they're at Best Ball Mania 5 already. $15 million in prizes. They're giving out $15 million with $1.5 million to first. Playing in best ball leagues makes you better. It helps train you on player value and strategy. And Underdog offers a lot more than just best ball contests. They offer pick'ems. My new favorite, the golf pick'ems. But they have the NBA pick'ems, baseball pick'ems going on throughout the offseason. Hit the pick'ems, back to best ball, hit the pick'ems. So use promo code Underworld. Promo code Underworld gets you a 50% deposit bonus up to $250. So they've increased the maximum deposit bonus. It was $100. Now it's up to $125. When you get the Underdog app, use promo code Underworld and go draft your ass off.
Welcome back to Dynasty Life. Theo Gremminger with DBro, Derek Brown of Fantasy Pros. So we're going to lay it down. It's going to be a PPR, super flex, with a 1.5 tight end premium. Ooh. Do you want to go passing, define the passing touchdowns here, DBro, how much they're worth, or we're good to go?
Let's just go with 4. Let's go with, it's fine. Let's go with 4.
Okay, so we'll do this. I'm going to recap it after 12 picks. And if you are in the YouTube audience, I'm going to timestamp these so you can kind of bounce around here. So this is going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to start out with DBro, our guest. You've got some options here at the 101, or is it cut and dry for you?
I mean, I think there's a few different options. I mean, considering, and again, reframing this, it is tight end premium. It is super flex. For me, when I'm doing dynasty startups, I am a heavy QB guy. The first rounds of the draft, like usually 9 times out of 10, I'm going quarterback. So for me, it's really what flavor of quarterback do you want? I'm just going to go with the chalky pick here. I'm going to go CJ Stroud, Theo. But there is a conversation with CJ Stroud versus Anthony Richardson. I do believe that.
Yeah, and I would actually throw in Caleb Williams into that mix. Anthony Richardson versus Caleb Williams for me is a real discussion. And I actually think that there's a chance that, spoiler alert, I think that the potentially the top 4 quarterbacks that we're going to name today, when we look back 6 months from now, they could all be top 5 dynasty quarterbacks. That's how accelerated they could be this year. So it's 2 overall, and we're also you're gonna have the 201 as well, DBro. We're not gonna snake this. We're gonna run it back. Okay. So it's a little more. It's the second pick for me. It's like, I really want to go Caleb. I really think Caleb has all these like outs this year where he could end up being, a top 5 quarterback this year. I think he can break the record that Eric Kramer holds for most touchdown passes in a single season by a Bear. I do think he's going to get 4,000 passing yards. But I've also said on other shows that I think Anthony Richardson has QB1 overall potential this year. Yep, longevity wise, give me Stroud. If I'm talking, if I have to have these same guys on my roster on a dynasty team, if it was like a non-trading dynasty format and I had 10 years or something, 8 years, absolutely Stroud. But I think Anthony Richardson, we saw last year Jalen Hurts, we saw last year Josh Allen, each have 15 rushing touchdowns. That's Anthony Richardson this year. I think he's going to score so many rushing touchdowns. I think he's an underrated passer, and he has attached to him nothing but day one and day two talent at the wide receiver spot. Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, Adonai Mitchell, and even Alec Pierce. It's all day two guys, actually. All second round and on players. But they're all athletic. They all can play, and he's got Jonathan Taylor next to him.
Jelani Woods breakout season, baby.
Jelani Woods, absolutely. Got to get a little Jelani in Underdog. But it's Anthony Richardson. He's a weapon of mass destruction. He could be QB1 overall this year, and he has the highest outcome of all of these quarterbacks. If it all bounces right, Anthony Richardson's the league winner this year.
Yeah, I played around with just kind of like doing the thought exercise before we went live with this mock. I was like, I played around with going Anthony Richardson at 1, so I don't hate you going with him at 2. Like, I mean, right now he's my QB5 in Dynasty, so I love that call, Theo. I'm gonna stay on the QB position here, and not to get hot takey and stuff like that, but I'm going with my QB7 in Dynasty right now. And I have him over Caleb Williams, which I know people hate, but I'm going Jayden Daniels, dude. This is easy for me here. And I know people are going to hate it. I know you love Caleb Williams. I'm not saying I hate Caleb Williams. I've got Caleb Williams firmly inside of my top 10 Dynasty quarterbacks. But if you were looking at from a ceiling and floor aspect, Jayden Daniels is it, dude. Like, he has got that. Like, I think this year his floor is top 12 quarterback in redraft this year. I think the ceiling, he could be top 5.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. I think Jayden Daniels, any way you cut it, is top 5 in this sort of format, no matter who I'd bring in. You could start thinking about some of these elite non-quarterbacks kind of after this pick, but for me, it's Caleb Williams at the 4. You took Jayden Daniels at 3. I would have gone Caleb. I was talking about Caleb at the 2. So this is sort of a no-brainer for me, getting him at the 4. I do think he's going to be on an accelerated path. He's been throughout every stop of his career, and I think he's the real deal. And I agree with you. I think Jayden Daniels and him, like, I've gone through multiple Dynasty startups this offseason where I've made sure to include these guys in my draft plan. It's a little bit of a cheat code because the hasn't seen it drafter is always going to kind of gravitate towards the Joe Burrow, Kyler tier, whereas these guys, I think, have actually higher ceilings than both those guys if it all bounces away. So you're back OTC, DBro. Which way you going?
So this is where I think you can split it up and where we kind of can go. You can make a case for a quarterback. You can make a case for a running back, wide receivers. This kind of comes just to strategy and stuff like that. Like, for me, I am going to go to the wide receiver position, and a lot of Dynasty startups, I'm building the backbone of my team in Superflex formats with quarterbacks and with wide receivers. Like, you do that in Dynasty startups, and even if your entire team gets hurt, flames out, it's not your year in Dynasty, you can re-roll that in a lot of ways. Like, if you build the backbone of your teams with quarterbacks and wide receivers and Superflex and Dynasty, you're good, man. Like, that is the type of build that where it can withstand like a bad season and your guys are still young, and we're talking about you're ready to roll the very next season. I know a lot of people are probably expecting going the wide receiver position. It's probably Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm going Puka Nacua, man. I have him ranked right ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr. in my Dynasty rankings, and so people understand that I'm putting respect on both these guys' names. I have Puka at wide receiver 5. I have Marvin Harrison Jr. at wide receiver 6. My thing about Puka is, what did you not see that you need to see? Like, how is he not a top 5, top 6 Dynasty wide receiver? I'm not telling you Harrison Jr. cannot get there, but we are legit talking about a guy that just broke every single season record for rookies ever, and yet he's still tied to a good quarterback in the NFL. Stafford's not young. I'm not telling you that. But he's tied to an awesome offensive play caller and an aging Cooper Kupp. Like, Puka Nacua has already shown us he can produce as a wide receiver 1 in the NFL. Every efficiency metric you look at, he's a freaking stud. He's a true alpha, and we could see another level to his game this year. So I am going with a guy where we have seen it over the projection of a legendary elite talent.
What's funny with Puka Nacua, it's not the way I would have gone at the 105. I would have gone Marvin Harrison Jr., and I'm going to take him at the 106. But everything you're saying,
I don't hate that. I don't hate it at all.
Everything you're saying makes total sense, though. And the last 3 seasons, we've seen the wide receiver that led the NFL in targets and led the NFL in catches finish as wide receiver 1 overall. Puka Nacua has already showed he's an elite target ceiling player. And, I think really the crutch with Puka is still where he was drafted in the NFL draft. People look at that as an unsustainable model.
Which is ridiculous.
But historically, the guys who come from that range of the draft and perform like this are some of the best dynasty assets we can have. Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Day 3, produce big. You are an elite talent because you have more impediments to overcome to earn those targets than some of these guys that have been, higher drafted who are going to get that opportunity to be a 125 target guy out the gate. So for me, it's fine. Puka Nacua, he was going to go with the next few picks anyway, and I love your enthusiasm for him. And he lost weight too this offseason. You love seeing these guys early on in their career changing their bodies like this. Devon A-Chain trying to put on weight, Puka Nacua trying to lose weight. It makes sense for these guys to do that this early in their career and makes you feel better about the offseason. 6 is easy for me, though. Marvin Harrison Jr., I think he's being drafted appropriately. The one thing that I think elevates him above Puka is I think he has the ability to be an insane touchdown scorer, like big time touchdown ceiling. And I think Puka's got that in him to be a very effective red zone weapon. But Marvin Harrison Jr. he's just that guy. One of the best wide receivers I ever saw in college. We flag planted him here at Player Profiler. I think he's going where he's going in dynasty startups for a reason, where he's going in redraft for a reason, best ball for a reason. He's the real deal. I think he could be a top 5 wide receiver this year as a rookie. Where are you going with the 107, DBro?
So I think that we have a long tier. Like I have a hard time pressing the button on running backs in Dynasty really early in startups and stuff like that. So I'm going to kind of show my cards with that right here. I do think that we have a decent tier of wide receivers. So I'm going to take what I think is the end of a tier for the quarterback position. I've got him as a top 12 Dynasty quarterback. I get it. Sam Darnold is going to start the year. I understand that. I don't expect to see J.J. McCarthy until after their bye because they have faced a murderer's row of defenses, and I don't think that Kevin O'Connell is going to subject J.J. McCarthy to that. I look at J.J. as I've been out there talking about him. He's a top 12 Dynasty quarterback. He's going to crush. One of the takes I didn't give earlier, but I'll sit here and share it here, Theo. I think the ceiling outcome for a J.J. McCarthy in his rookie season is to put up rookie season Justin Herbert numbers. The talent is definitively there. I'm sorry if people want to still hang on to bad narratives. I don't really give a shit. The talent is there. The efficiency numbers were there. It's littered throughout his film, Theo. So J.J. McCarthy, another guy that people are waiting to see it. I don't care. I saw all I needed to see on the film and in the prospect profile. I'm going J.J. here.
I've talked about him as sort of a dynasty sleeper, and not a sleeper we haven't heard of, but a sleeper who can break through tiers. And I think that's sort of how we should be thinking about dynasty sleepers now, because everybody knows everybody in dynasty. Every undrafted free agent at this point. There's nobody I'm be like, oh, DBro, have you heard of this guy? No, Theo, I've never heard of him. Thank you for enlightening me on this guy on an NFL roster. But like J.J. McCarthy, I think the X factor for me with him, we know that he can make the throws. We know that he's got a very powerful arm, and we know he has elite weapons on the roster. We know he's got a solid offensive line. But I think the thing for him that is an underrated aspect is the athletic ability, where the Michigan coaches say that this guy ran in the high 4.4s.
Yep.
So he's right in that elite athleticism wheelhouse.
Sixth fastest 3 cone at the combine amongst all position guys. All position cornerbacks, everybody. 6th fastest.
And we believe in this offensive coaching staff who was able to get big-time fantasy production out of Josh Dobbs. They had Nick Mullins passing for 400 yards. The guy threw 5 interceptions, but we'll look at the yardage as the positive. So it's if they can unlock J.J. McCarthy as a runner, and he has a higher outcome as a runner in the NFL, I think that's the X factor, where if this coaching staff can max that out, and something he wasn't really asked for him at Michigan at all, I think that's the X factors. I do think he's going to be an effective passer, but it's how often are they using him around the goal line? Is he a guy that they can design runs for, and simply just an opportunistic scrambler that runs 4.5? I mean, that's pretty exciting to me. So for me, at the 8th overall spot here, I could go a number of ways, and I will say this: 6 months ago, I wouldn't have been saying Bijan Robinson. For me, I'm a Jahmyr Gibbs guy through and through, but it's becoming more and more apparent to me that Bijan Robinson, I think, is going to be my RB1 when we get down to the nitty gritty for the end of August. He's checking off all of the boxes.
He's my RB1. I agree with you. He's my RB1.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk about, are we ageist? Maybe a little bit, but CMC saw a decline in targets last year from where we're used to seeing him. CMC is 28 years old. It's very much an outlier that we're seeing a running back his age finish RB1 overall. And even besides that, it's more of an argument on Bijan was the chosen one for us in Dynasty at the running back position, a guy that we waited for years and years and years, top 10 NFL pick. Now, and it's crazy that despite all the impediments he had last year usage-wise, he finishes number 3 overall in the NFL in targets. He had 86 targets as a rookie. I think that there's a chance he leads all running backs in receptions in year 2 and has a sort of a Todd Gurley-like break fantasy type 23, 24 point per game outcome. And we feel like the offense is heading in a great direction. I think Bijan Robinson is a smash here in the back half of the first round.
I know it can make like so many low-hanging fruit like Arthur Smith jokes. I just want to throw this out there, courtesy of playerprofiler.com. There's no damn way that an NFL offense should ever operate with Bijan Robinson ranking 32nd in red zone touches. I'm just that should
it's
never
insane.
Happen. He was the RB12 in expected fantasy points last year. If that offense also would have if that offense would have ran the way that it should have, with actually talented players, not your Cordell Pattersons and who have you of the world, getting the ball in high leverage situations. If Bijan would have gotten the ball in the type of manner as far as volume and the high leverage stuff, he should have been a top 12, top 10, top 8 back last year. So I think all those things like that you mentioned, Theo, are firmly in play. And I am going to stay because I think we have a good long tier of guys here at the wide receiver position that I'm pretty happy about taking some value and things like that. So I'm going to stay with you on the running back position, and I'm going to take Jahmyr Gibbs here. I know David Montgomery is still there. I get that. But if you look at all the parts or pieces of after David Montgomery came back from injury last year, yes, we can talk about he still had a definitive role. Yes, still was a red zone presence. If you look at all the other numbers about how much playing time that they had, Jahmyr Gibbs played on 63% of the passing down snaps after David Montgomery came back. And that won't surprise anybody because, he's the passing down back. But he also played 64% of the red zone snaps. So, if he would have gotten more volume commensurate with the number of snaps he played in the red zone, and it wasn't just more of an even touch distribution, Jahmyr Gibbs has that type of ability and the role where he could garner more of the red zone stuff this year and take all of the passing down work. He can be a top 3, top 5 back this year, even with the presence of David Montgomery. So I'm going to go with the talent. I'm going to go with the correlation of we see these second-year running backs, when we were just talking about Bijan, get a bump in volume in their second seasons. Gibbs' ceiling still has not been fully unlocked, and we could see that in 2024.
I agree with everything you said, and I think we'll take a step back. If this was this time last year, and I said to you, Jahmyr Gibbs finishes with 52 receptions only, where does he finish in the running back rankings? Ooh. You would have said he's like running back 24. It would have been very disappointing because at the time, a lot of us were projecting Jahmyr Gibbs to be this Reggie Bush-like rookie season in terms of receiver. And I would say that there's a lot of gas left in the tank in terms of the receiving volume he can take. And he could go from a 70 target guy to a 100 target guy.
Yep.
I love Jahmyr Gibbs' pass catching ceiling this year. So I think he's very much with Bijan in a guy who could finish as RB1 overall. But like you said, David Montgomery's presence versus a guy like Tyler Algier, who we think is more of a direct handcuff than a guy that's going to get mixed in this new offense that much. That's for me would be the kind of change for my overall dynasty outlook. At the 10 spot for me, this is a really interesting one. I could go with back to the quarterback. Well, I could go conceivably with one of the tight ends, but I think there's a wide receiver that stands out really, really highly for me. And that's Malik Nabers.
Yes.
And I think Malik Nabers, it's like everything I talked about, everything we talked about with Puka Nacua and Marvin Harrison Jr. is 6 months from now. If Nabers is worth more than those two guys in Dynasty and he's ahead of them, not going to surprise me. He's being held back by the quality of the offense, not the quality of the player. But I think at the end of the day, if you look at the Giants offense, there's no way that Brian Daboll's not going to do everything he can to get this guy the ball as often as possible. I think he leads all rookies in targets.
Oh, I love that.
Incredibly explosive.
That. Yeah, I love that take. I said that earlier this offseason. I did a show with Ray GQ and J Rich, and I remember the chat, and I remember even getting some hate out on social media about making that exact same take. It's like, no, it can happen. Like, Malik Nabers can out-target Marvin Harrison Jr. in their rookie seasons. Like, Malik Nabers has nobody to compete with. And I'm not telling you that they end up with the same type of efficiency numbers or fantasy scoring. Different offenses, I'm not telling you that at all. But raw target volume, yes, Malik Nabers absolutely can. And it's not crazy to say, like, both of those offenses last year threw the ball almost the same exact number of times. If Malik Nabers, because he has no competition, Theo, none, zero. Nobody else on that offense is going to earn a 20% target share. Malik Nabers could legit earn a 27-28% target share this year. And I don't think anybody's ready for it, man. But I'm with you. Like, I debated him with Jahmyr Gibbs for that last pick that I made. But I was like, maybe I can get him to slide. Maybe Theo goes with a tight end or goes the quarterback or something. Maybe I get him to slide back to me. Unfortunately, you're too sharp, and I was wrong.
Yeah, it's really the two incredible running backs that we have in this two combined classes versus Malik Nabers. I think that comes up for a lot of dynasty managers, and it's really tough. I mean, there's no wrong answer. It's sort of how you want to build your team, and it's sort of we can bet on the immediate production with Gibbs and Robinson being like elevated by their offense as opposed to Nabers, where the talent is right there. Brian Daboll has used a wide receiver like him, getting Stephon Diggs 160 targets his first year in Buffalo. It's right there. It's, but I do worry about Daniel Jones. Are we going to get frustrated by Daniel Jones? Is it going to be a thing where you see like a Jalen Waddle rookie season where he has 100 catches, but he finishes outside of wide receiver one land because of the quality of the offense? That's probably going to be the case for Nabers, but he's an absolute stud. Where are you going at the I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I agree with you. I just wanted to add on, like, for anybody, if he ends up with a Waddle type of season, Waddle was still wide receiver 15. We're all still going to be happy as shit if that happens, dude.
100%. Where are you at the 111 here?
So there is a lot of guys that I love at this spot. But because of team building and stuff, and plus a few guys that I like later, I'm going to stay with the wide receivers. And people could say, I've heard it all, man. I've heard, okay, well, this is just the new JSN. You're going to fall on the sword. And I'm like, bro, y'all are looking at this the wrong way. I'm taking Rome Odunze here.
Yeah.
Rome Odunze, I don't care about the landing spot. And, people could say, like I said, the same thing about JSN last year. Did it burn me? Sure, but I didn't see the offensive coordinator in Seattle turning JSN into a damn screen merchant. Nobody could have told you that was going to happen. So Rome Odunze, I love him, man. I love him in redraft circles where I think people are sleeping on his upside. I love him in Dynasty still. He's my wide receiver 12 in Dynasty. I think you can make a case for him being a little bit higher. Like, I think the conversation for Rome starts at wide receiver 10, right behind Malik Nabers. And I understand DJ Moore and Keenan Allen are freaking awesome. I get that. I do. I understand that. While we talk so much about the talent level of DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, can we also go back to like all of our pre-draft process and we talk about the talent level of Rome Odunze? Like, what if he is just that damn dude, Theo? Like, what if he is that dude? Because we talked about him in all of the pre-draft NFL draft stuff, and people are like, he's an alpha. He's in that top 3 upside, and he's in that same conversation. Like, some people had him as their wide receiver 1 of the class, like over Marvin Harrison Jr. Some people had him as the wide receiver 2 of this class over Malik Nabers. And I said it then, and I'll say it again now. I didn't give a shit where you rank those top 3 guys. Didn't care. Didn't matter to me. Like, they're all really, really, really good prospects. And so we come back to that, and I know hindsight is always 20/20, Theo, and I'm not telling you it's a one-to-one comparison, but when we flipped over the cards after Ja'Marr Chase's rookie season, did anybody really see and forecast him being a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy that year? Nobody did. Even though we all loved him as a prospect, we all said, okay, whatever, he can be the guy. Entering into an established passing offense with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, and I'm not telling you that DJ Moore and Keenan Allen are that level. Yes, okay, we can make the case they are better wide receivers than those other 2 guys. I understand that too. What if Rome is that damn good and he's not the number 3 in this offense, but he's the number 2 and he's consistently fighting weekly for that number 1 target share by midseason? What if that's the case, man? Like we've gotten past where we thought about him in NFL draft circles before the NFL draft, and we said, we love this guy. He has alpha level talent. He's freaking awesome. Now we've digested the landing spot, and in some ways, we could be overweighting that and not giving enough credence to his talent. And I'm not even telling you, what are the outs of if Keenan Allen gets used like JSN? What if he gets thrown into this shit role for Shane Waldron? What if he can't stay healthy because he's not young? What if the age cliff comes for him? Like, all those things can happen. What if his passing offense outpaces expectations because Shane Waldron threw at a high clip with Seattle? Like, what if any of those things? There's so many outs here for Rome Odunze to crush in his rookie season. And I'm not telling you to be top 5 like Ja'Marr Chase was, but what if he's top 15? What if he's a wide receiver 1? What if him and DJ Moore both finish and Caleb does all the things that we think he can do? What if both of those guys finish as top 15, top 17 fantasy wide receivers? If that's the case, we are underrating Rome Odunze right now in redraft and in best ball, and maybe a tad in Dynasty.
History repeats itself when it comes to the NFL, and you brought up the T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Ja'Marr Chase. In down in your neck of the woods, CeeDee Lamb was drafted into an offense with Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. And second half of the year, who led them in fantasy points at the wide receiver spot was CeeDee Lamb. Life has a way of happening quickly for alpha wide receivers. And the last time that the best ball and redraft market treated a top 10 wide receiver, overall NFL draft pick wide receiver like this, Garrett Wilson was undrafted in a lot of leagues, comes into the Jets. Everybody's like, Elijah Moore is going to lead them in everything. And we liked Elijah Moore at the time, but at the end of the day, alphas are alphas are alphas. And Garrett Wilson finishes as offensive rookie of the year. I don't think that's Rome Odunze this year, but I do think he's going to be laughably better than his ADP right now on Underdog and in FFPC and FFC. I think he's too good a player not to at least provide you with spike weeks. And at the end of the day, Keenan Allen, older guy. And, you know, we're getting into first year with the team. You never know when it's sort of going to have a regression there. DBro, we got to speed this up. We've got oh, never mind. You got a CeeDee Lamb one for me.
No, I was going to tell you, I was like, to your point with the comment you made about CeeDee Lamb, he was the wide receiver 18 in fantasy points per game
I love that
his
one.
rookie season, dude. Like, what if Rome does that? Like, and I think it can definitely happen.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to close out the first round here, and then we'll recap it for everyone.
Okay.
Sam LaPorta for me. I'm going tight end. Sam LaPorta makes sense. I mean, I think you could have taken him ahead of Nabers and Odunze. Yep. That's how good he is. But we have multiple, like you talk about kind of the game theory of this. There's other tight ends we like that are available to us. But at the end of the day, he's an elite offense, 120 targets as a rookie, finishes tight end 1 overall as a rookie. This is a next level type player. I know in FFPC he's steaming up. He's already a back half of the first round guy in these FFPC drafts, as I think he should be. He can repeat as tight end 1 overall this year. And even if he doesn't repeat as tight end 1 overall, he's a top 5 player at the tight end position for like a long, long time. LaPorta is awesome. Don't really need to add a lot of context right there. Yep. I know you're a huge LaPorta guy.
Yeah, I love Sammy Ballgame. Like, he did exactly what we thought he could do in his rookie season. Crushed it, man. Like, I think the sky is the limit. Like, I'm not telling you that he scores 10 touchdowns again this year, but I think that he could demand an even higher target share in his second season that can kind of outweigh some of the touchdown regression we think is coming.
No, 100%. So just to recap the essentially the top 12 picks, CJ Stroud goes off the board at the 101, Anthony Richardson at the 102, Jayden Daniels at the 103 to DBro, Caleb Williams, Puka Nacua at the 105, Marvin Harrison Jr. at the 106, JJ McCarthy at the 107, back-to-back running backs with Bijan Robinson at the 108, Jahmyr Gibbs at the 109, Malik Nabers at the 110, Rome Odunze at the 111, and Sam LaPorta closes out the first round as our first tight end off the board. DBro, you're starting us out at the 201 here.
This pick is easy for me, and I know people are going to hate it to a certain extent because they're going to say, what about the ACL? And I'm going to tell you, I believe in modern medicine. I don't really give a shit about the ACL. What I care about is draft capital. What I care about is role. What I care about is this guy is going to be the new Rachaad White with draft capital. And oh, guess what? He's actually good at football. I'm going Jonathan Brooks here, dude. I've been on it. Like, I thought he was a clear like 107, 108 in rookie drafts. Right now, for everybody sitting there at home, he is my RB9 in fantasy. So I just think it's clear, man. I think that, we have worries about the rookie season usage, particularly in the first half of the season, but every other part or piece of his profile, his outlook, all of that, it screams that we are getting him at probably what is going to be his floor for the next 2 to 4 seasons.
He's got the elite potential as a receiver. Like we talk about Robinson and Gibbs. I think when you look at Brooks, it's the 3-down skill set. We have the sample size of Dave Canales elevating a running back, getting Rachaad White 330 touches in year 2. I think Jonathan Brooks will be ready to go. I think there's positive reports there. And I think that where they drafted him, I think they feel confident that he's a safety blanket that's going to protect Bryce Young. Like, the whole idea, they're bringing in all these wide receivers, but at the end of the day, low ADOT looks, a safety valve in Jonathan Brooks. That's a way to take some pressure off of Bryce Young in year 2 and try to get him back on the right track. So a little bit earlier than I would have taken Brooks, but I do think Brooks was a lock to go in this top 24 right now. Yeah. And the running backs sort of dry up. I think spoiler alert, there might be one more running back called in this whole next 11 picks. So for me, at the 202, I'm actually going to go back to the tight end. I could go either way here. They're both great.
Good.
I think that like Dalton Kincaid has a tight end 1 overall season in him this year. And I think that's, for me, I still want to go Bowers. How about that? I think Bowers is sort of okay. I'm gonna go an upset. I'm gonna go a curveball here. Kincaid's my guy. But at the end of the day, I think it's a Kincaid being the Travis Kelce role with minimal wide receiver competition. Yep. That's something where I don't necessarily see being the norm every year in Buffalo. I think it's sort of a perfect storm situation. I do think Dalton Kincaid is a top 3, top 4 asset at the tight end spot in Dynasty, hands down. But Brock Bowers, to me, I think Devontae Adams is not going to be a Raider a year from now. And even if he is, you're talking about a 30, guy who's going to be 32 years old. Brock Bowers, I think, has potential to be the leading target in Vegas in year 2. And that's a scary thought for NFL defenses. I think he's the kind of tight end that can handle 140 targets and used in an Evan Engram-like target share. But he has that insane big playability, insane athleticism. Plus, they're using him on manufactured rushing plays. Like, Brock Bowers is a weapon of mass destruction at the tight end spot. This is the next dude. And this is a guy where I think he could be worth more than Sam LaPorta in Dynasty in 6 months. Nobody's going to bat an eye. That's how talented I think he is. So for me, I'm going to go Brock Bowers, a slight upset. I'm a Dalton Kincaid guy through and through, but I'm feeling it today. I'm feeling it with Bowers.
I'm not going to disagree with you much, and I'm just going to pick Kincaid here. I'm going to lean into the tight end premium portion of this. And for everything that you said, Theo, like I look at Kincaid as their runaway wide receiver 1 this year. He's my tight end 3 in Dynasty behind only LaPorta and Trey McBride. I just look at the talent is definitively there to draw a high-end target share, to lead the team in targets. He's tied to Josh Allen for the rest of his career, possibly. I think that this could be the composition of the Buffalo Bills offense moving forward, where they say, yeah, Dalton Kincaid is our number 1, especially with how many teams are playing zone coverage, how many teams are playing 2 high safeties. Like, Buffalo needed an answer for that. They got one in Kincaid, and I think he just flourishes in his second season.
Yeah, and what an awesome time for Dynasty managers with all this youth and talent at the top of the tight end charts.
Tight ends, dude.
And when I'm looking at the guys, I have a list that I've been looking at trying to stay on track with this show. And when I look at the wide receiver spot, there's a lot of options, DBro. But at the running back spot, I got to take my guy. I got to flag plant my guy. It's Devon Achane. And I'm taking Devon Achane at 16 overall.
If you didn't do it, I was going to do it. So he wasn't making it past the next 2 picks. So I love it.
I feel almost disrespectful not taking him at the 12 overall spot because I'm so flag planning on him. But shout out to Devon Achane. I'm sorry. I still took you a couple spots too low. But you talk about the way to combat. When you look at structural drafting this season, sort of the way that you can combat the Bijan Robinson, the Breece Hall, the Christian McCaffrey drafter is draft a great wide receiver after they take their running back, and then just take Devon Achane in the 3rd round, and don't be scared. Take Devon Achane, run with it. If you want to, and we'll take a little pause segue. You can talk a little bit about his backup. But one way I've been playing it is in redraft. I do not mind taking Devon Achane in the 3rd and then Jalen Wright in the 11th, 10th round.
Love it.
Because if Raheem Mostert goes down, I have 2 starters, DBro. And with those 2 guys in a Raheem Mostert-less week, that might be 45 fantasy points in PPR. And a downside of 35? The combined running back scoring on that team is insane. And when you get down to it, Raheem Mostert's the oldest one. And I'll take some shots there. You had Jalen Wright as your preferred backup option in drafts. Why don't you just expand on that?
I mean, I just look at Jalen Wright. I think that when we tried to ingest the landing spot, I feel like we got a little bit too out ahead of it and said, like, okay, this is horrible. This is nightmare fuel. They re-signed Mostert, all those types of things. It's like, the other thing about this is, you have 2 outs for Jalen Wright. Either Achane misses time or Mostert misses time, or he supplants one of those guys, most likely Mostert. But in that backfield, we've seen how much touchdown equity goes through the running back position. We see how consolidated that entire offense is. And if you were to just take all the names out of it, okay, Theo, let's talk about size and profile and things like that. Who is the biggest running back, BMI, size-wise, out of an entire freaking backfield amongst those top 3 guys? And we were to say, in our mind's eye, just taking the names off of it, okay? Who profiles as a goal line back in that offense over the other 2? Who would be the favorite for red zone touches out of those 3 backs? Just looking at the size and the profile, it's easy Jalen Wright. So we need to be more comfortable than we are diving into ambiguous backfields. We did this last year, didn't we, Theo? Where we said, oh shit, I don't know if I want to draft Mostert or I don't want to draft Achane because I don't know who. Maybe I need to draft Jeff Wilson. Maybe I draft none of these guys because I don't know definitively how this all works out. And then we're all just sitting there watching. Okay, there goes Achane. There goes that man. There goes Mostert. He's going off again. And we're saying, crap, man. Like, you look back at and you flip over the cards and you say, I wish I would have embraced the uncertainty more. And all of that just points right back to Jalen Wright. In rookie drafts, in startups, and best ball, I'm just drafting a ton of him because the outs are all there. And it's not hard to see him maybe leading this team in rushing touchdowns if Achane were to miss any time and Mostert goes down or these roles get flip-flopped.
And I think you kind of nailed it. It's a double contingent upside play. Where the running backs that I did an article where I ranked every handcuff option, every number 2 running back, and I had to write a little special section for Jalen Wright because he's that guy. We rarely draft a 3rd running back off a team, but Miami can lead the NFL in scoring. They were 3rd in scoring last year. If I told you they averaged 33 points a game this year instead of 27 and they break the NFL record for scoring, you're like, okay, Mike McDaniel's that guy, year 3 with skinny Tua, they're going to score every point. So, I love that one. So Devon Achane, but we're also drafting Jalen Wright. So that it's a great time to be alive when you have Mike McDaniel. We wish there was 32 of them. Where are you going at 17 overall, DBro?
I'm going back to the wide receiver well here. I'm taking a guy that I think the target consolidation, I think the second-year leap can definitively happen. We saw enough promise and upside in his rookie year. I'm just going back to the well with Zay Flowers. I'm taking him here. He's my highest ranked dynasty wide receiver left here. I think you can make a case for a lot of different players right now, specifically at the wide receiver position. But Zay Flowers, I mean, it's just him, man. Like, it's him and Andrews. I think he gets more of the end zone targets, more of the red zone role. I think he gets used more, hopefully, downfield, where we saw a lot of manufactured touches, a lot of stuff around the line of scrimmage. And this year, no Odell Beckham. I think that does help Zay Flowers in terms of red zone opportunities and stuff, because even Odell, not a full-time player, still cut into and was at times the preferred red zone option, especially after Andrews went down. I just look at all the parts or pieces are there for Zay Flowers to absolutely just take off in his second year.
And it's funny because I feel like I've been arguing with people for Zay Flowers for like the last few weeks.
Same.
Like, we're on Twitter and you see some smart people that we respect in the industry off of Zay Flowers. And I'm just like, I'm thinking to myself, Mark Andrews doesn't change anything. Isaiah Likely was putting up points next to Zay Flowers last year. It's also year 2 of the Todd Monken offense where Lamar Jackson had his most pass attempts ever. Who's to say that this offense doesn't take a big step forward in year 2 with Monken? I think we all believe like this is a sour taste left in your mouth at the way that the season ended for them. Maybe it's a motivating factor and the Baltimore just comes out and scores and scores and scores. And I've said on other podcasts, Zay Flowers is going to catch more passes than any Lamar Jackson wide receiver ever has. Hollywood Brown had 95 receptions. Zay Flowers goes north of that. I don't think he catches Derek Mason for the all-time, but he'll be close. I think he's a guy who can get 100 catches this year. So I like that one a lot. We believe in the offense. You know, it's fun drafting guys on good offenses, DBro, and not have to, but I'm going to draft a guy on an offense that I think we're kind of at that point in the draft where it makes sense for me to take this chance. It's Drake May for me. Drake May here. I'm taking him at 18 overall. I'm taking him 11 spots behind JJ McCarthy. And again, like, we have some question marks about when he's going to get on the field. We have some question marks about the offense, but I think that he has enough juice and enough potential as a runner, and he's got a big cannon of an arm and an organization that seems to, whether they make the correct decision or not, they're trying to surround him with complementary weapons. So I think like he needs Javon Baker, Jalen Polk, and Demario Douglas to be solid this year. I think all three of them could be. And they re-signed Ramondre Stevenson to give him some stability at the running back spot. I have worries that they're going to lose a lot of games, and we never like seeing our rookie quarterbacks lose every game. It sort of sets them off on a bad track. I think this could be like a 5-win team. But I'm gonna take him here.
So I don't want to give Patriots fans too much hope. I actually think that the Patriots are going to outpace expectations this year. I question how much May starts this year, but I think the Patriots could be like an 8-9 win team. I think the defense is legit. I think they made a lot of solid moves. I think a lot of very underrated moves. So yeah, I think Patriots can definitely outpace their win. Like, I already bet the over on their win total for this year. So I like the call for Drake May, though. If you didn't take him there, I was going to probably take him in my next pick.
Tough little division there. Tough division there, D-Bro.
It is. It's tough, man. It is tough. It is tough. I mean, nobody's getting easy wins out here, but I think their defense is going to be better than it was last year, just from a health standpoint, hopefully. And if that happens, that I think the defense can carry them. I think they're going to run the ball pretty well this year. So I think Patriots can outpace. Going back to the wide receiver position, I'm going to go with a guy. I think you can make a lot of different cases for a lot of different guys here. I'm going to go. I made the case for him earlier in the show. I'm not going to go with probably JSN where people think I'm going to go. I'm going to go Tank Dell, man. I think that can you make the case you're worried about Stephon Diggs? Sure, that's a case to be made. Can we also make the case that Tank Dell was just that guy in his rookie season? He outplayed the draft capital. Could he be the number 2 in this offense from week 1 moving forward? Everything that Stroud has said in the media is absolutely true. Tank Dell was just that dude, man. Like, he even outpaced Nico Collins when they were both on the field playing full-time roles and healthy last year. It was Tank Dell that was leading them in fantasy points per game, target share, air yard share, and not Nico Collins. So I'm not telling you that I dislike Nico Collins, but I also think that we need to give respect where it is due and give respect to a wide receiver that is tied to CJ Stroud for maybe the rest of his career, at least for the next 3 seasons in his rookie contract.
Yeah, I love it. And I think it's sort of a grouping of wide receivers here where it's appropriate. Yep. You could make an argument for all of them. Yep. I'll go JSN. I'm feeling very JSN bullish. I have my bet with Billy Muzio again this year. I think I have him. He has to finish better than wide receiver 32. Last year it was wide receiver 36.
Can I get on that action? Is that points per game?
100%.
I need that action.
100% you can get in on that action.
All right, Billy.
DM,
all right,
DM, you're gonna,
we're settling up. We're settling up after this. I need to get in on this bet. Yep, that's happening.
So we got Dell and JSN. We're back to you at 21 overall. We have 4 picks left, bro.
Just staying with the wide receivers here, going with draft capital, going offense, going upside. I'm going Xavier Worthy. I've loved him the entire pre-draft process. I think that people didn't give him enough credit just because he ran fast. I didn't need the combine breaking speed to tell you that Xavier Worthy is fast, so I'm not double counting there. But the thing that Xavier Worthy has in his repertoire is he is a route runner. He is awesome as a route runner. So I don't care about the size, and I know the history for, these top-end speed guys isn't great. Xavier Worthy is different. He's not just going to be the guy that you just put on go routes and say, I'm faster than you run past guys in the NFL. There is nuance to his game. There's route running chops to be had. In 2 of his final 3 seasons, not only was he a high-end target earner at Texas, he was also top 27 in yak per reception. So that Rashee Rice role that we all loved last year down the back half of the season, when he was getting force-fed targets, that could be Xavier Worthy's role this year and not Rashee Rice's.
Yeah, this is I love the Worthy call. And I would say right now I have 6 wide receivers I can make a case for. There's a couple quarterbacks where fundamentally they, if we were doing a super flex draft, it's like, should I take this quarterback here? But at the end of the day, none of them really inspire confidence, in me. So I think I'm going to go back to the wide receiver well. And this is one where I think do I want to go with your guy? I'm going to game theory because I don't think you're going to take this guy. I'm going to push up.
Go ahead.
I'm going to push up another rookie wide receiver. I'm going to push up Brian Thomas, who I think
I wasn't going to take him, but I like it.
Brian Thomas, I think, has a pathway to being the wide receiver 1 in Jacksonville pretty quickly. Christian Kirk is a guy who we think is a very solid NFL player, but a guy who's never gone north of 130 targets. Evan Engram, I love, but he's sort of capped out. There's not really it's hard to see Evan Engram adding 10% on his target total this year.
Yeah.
That would be a little crazy. So for me, it's Calvin Ridley led the NFL in end zone targets. Calvin Ridley was wide receiver 18. Gabe Davis, to me, is sort of a juiced up Zay Jones replacement, a bigger, stronger Zay Jones. I think really Brian Thomas is going to step into the Calvin Ridley role, and Kirk kind of is Kirk. He's the same guy. So Brian Thomas led the SEC last year in touchdowns. The guy was an absolute weapon, and he did it on an offense with Malik Nabers. Now, his quarterback was pretty good, DBro, but at the end of the day, he was still standing out. Had two touchdown catches in the bowl game when Nabers didn't play. It's a big-time athlete that tore up the combine, attached to a quarterback with long-term stability. I like taking Brian Thomas here. I think Trevor Lawrence to Brian Thomas is something that we're going to hear a lot on Sundays. Oh, you're muted, DBro.
Dear Lord, I'm
you were muted on that one.
I'm pulling rookie moves out here, man. I was saying that I do like BTJ. I will say that I think that he is a little bit more limited as a player. So I think that the role where he comes in and plays in his rookie season, I think that they need to accentuate his strengths, which you could say that to any OC and
DK Metcalf rookie
usage. Yes, that's exactly that. That is the fever dream of what you want his role to look like. Like, ask him to run comebacks, ask him to run go routes. Don't really ask him to run a full route tree, in breaker slants, things like that. Ease him in, but accentuate the things that he does well. And I think BTJ ends up with a fantastic rookie season. I'm going to go with a guy that I think that, man, I'm not telling you that Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel gets moved before week 1. I think it's still definitively in play. I know it's less of a chance the closer that we get to training camps and the season and all that type of stuff, but I'm going to bet on the talent of a player that did get first-round pedigree. He pops off of the film. He pops in efficiency metrics. And again, we're talking about we want parts of good offenses, and the only reason that you're getting him at this point of this particular thought exercise is because of the still, look, Deebo and Ayuk are still there. If that was not the case, Ricky Pearsall would already be gone in this draft right now. He would have already been taken. that would have already happened, but we're enjoying value. We get to enjoy it. If you want to talk about this year's JSN as a guy like but we know that one of those guys is going to be gone after this year. So even if saying, well, yeah, but Tyler Lockett got re-signed, one of those guys, they got to pay Brock Purdy. They got to pay other guys on this roster. One of these guys is gone after this year. So I'm enjoying the value that we're getting on Ricky Pearsall.
I love it. I love the boldness of the call. It's a next level athlete. It's a top offense. And do they just use him in a similar role as one of these guys? He's a little different, but he's like, they've hit so well in this range. It's like the Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel went in the second round, late first. And those guys, Pearsall goes in the same range. They're all sort of the same prototype, a really big time athlete, good size, and the ability to win at different levels. So that's a strong one. Gosh, DBro, this is really hard for me to end the draft here.
It's tough, man.
I could go with a discounted Rashee Rice. I could go with War Daddy, Jayden Reed. I could go with Ladd McConkey. For me, it comes down to Jordan Addison versus Trey Benson, but I want to go Jordan Addison because we're bumping heads a little bit on him this year. I know you're fading him for this year specifically, and I agree with you that I think this year Minnesota is going to struggle to get the necessarily pass attempts to kind of support both of these guys. But I think there's one big out would be the health of TJ Hawkinson, where I think that there's a chance that it could be super, super consolidated with Jefferson commanding 30% and Addison getting a lot of the rest of the targets. They also lose they also don't really have a wide receiver 3 who's going to command targets, or a replacement tight end. And running back wise, both of those guys look like pass catchers out of the backfield, but neither one is going to be an impediment from a second wide receiver commanding some volume. And it's Jordan Addison for me. I think flashed last year. He has the big time draft capital, and we've seen it. I understand that the touchdowns are unsustainable. The rate was insane last year, but he still scored them. So for me, it's Jordan Addison, I think, is a really strong dynasty asset. And if JJ McCarthy hits at the level that you're talking about, year 3 Jordan Addison, this could be a guy being drafted as like wide receiver 18 again, once we have a little bit more confidence in JJ McCarthy. I think as a 23-year-old is a lot more inspiring as his first year, 21-22. So Addison for me, but I really could have gone with about 6 names here, DBro. I'll say, who is the number one player that you think is like, beginning of the day, who's the guy that you thought would have been in this top 24 that wasn't?
I mean, I think we could have made the biggest cases for Jayden Reed with all the hype on him. I think that a lot of people would have put him easily here. Ladd McConkey, we could say the same things. If the suspension and all that stuff wasn't hanging over his head, I think the easy top 3 guys here were Ladd McConkey, Jayden Reed, and Rashee Rice. And I think if the suspension and all the off-the-field stuff had never happened this offseason, Rashee Rice is the biggest guy that I think people would point back to and say, he is the guy that would have gone so much higher in this exercise if the off-the-field concerns weren't a part of it.
Yeah, no, it's I agree with you. And that's sort of this could be, at the end of the day, he could be a massive discount, but it just shows the Xavier Worthy. Also, Xavier Worthy, this is a guy where the profile was better coming out of college, in my opinion, versus Rice, and not really that close. So I'm on Team Worthy as well. DBro, this was so much fun. I could do 4 rounds with you, but you're in an hour 20. I told you this would be like 45 minutes to 60. You're always
I knew we were going
with
over an hour. I knew it. As soon as you said that, I was like, oh, okay, Theo, sure thing.
The show sheets are a little extensive, but we got to grind. We got to get after it this time of year. People are trying to win. DBro, you're always generous with your time and your takes. Let everybody know where they can find your work.
Yeah, everything, all the things and stuff is over at FantasyPros. You can find me on all the social media hubs at DBro_FFB. Like I said, our redraft kit is live, fantasypros.com/kit. Best ball kit is live as well. All the Dynasty stuff is out there. You can check out me on the Dynasty show from time to time, as well as on the main show. We're doing a lot of really awesome stuff with the podcast feed this year. We have some Discord shows that we're treating like live radio, so taking questions. So look, if you want to just get your question answered as well as get onto the Fantasy Pros podcast, hear yourself live for everybody, like point back to all your league mates, like, I got on the show. Just hop in the Discord, man. We're doing the Extra Point show. We got the Dynasty show called Double Coverage that we're doing that's popping off weekly. I think we're going to continue a lot of those things during the NFL season as well. So all the things and stuff, man, it's all going on at Fantasy Pros.
Yeah, we had Pat Fitzmaurice on First Class Fantasy with Billy Muzio and I recently. Andrew Erickson came on Mind to Mansion. We are big fans at Player Profiler for what you guys do. And you
Same
guys
way.
have some really
Same
sharp
way.
takes. So I'm sure this won't be the last time you see DBro in the Dynasty Life streets. Have a wonderful 4th of July. Dynasty Life will be back next week.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.